Okay, this is Chris Miller from the Akronist. Happy everyone stuck around to hear from some of our citizens and some of our independent candidates in town. The independents do not file until a little later, so we thought we'd give them a chance to talk a little bit here in our post-discussion wrap-up. We are live streaming this alongside the main event tonight. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panel. First is Sage Lewis, social media magnate. We've got Stephen Muhammad, independent candidate for mayor. Yoly Heisler, who is a woman about town. You probably see her social media posts at different cultural events, and she really has her finger on the pulse of our arts and culture community. Yoly's also an Akronist contributor. Vanessa Carter, who's also an Akronist contributor and is involved in the arts and culture scene. And we have William Melver, another independent candidate for mayor. So we're going to start off by asking each of you how you felt the three candidates before address some of the concerns brought up, specifically about the culture, the cultural diversity, the arts and culture survey, how the city can better collaborate with the arts community. There was a lot of talk about subsidization of different things like EJ and artist living space, and along with keeping arts in school and helping neighborhood development. So let's start off with Sage. Let us know how you think the candidates did tonight.
Yeah, well, I'm a bit sad to say I didn't feel a significant sincerity in what they were talking about as far as the arts. It didn't seem like they intrinsically thought that the arts were crucially important. Arts were important if it could somehow be turned into money. It might be on the same level as phys ed. They did not really give I did not feel that arts were valuable as the arts. And for myself personally, I have been shaped by doing countless concerts on the stage of E.J. Thomas Hall in the Akron Youth Symphony. I personally did a double concerto under Keith Lockhart on that stage, which changed my life and gave me a full scholarship to Baldwin Wallace College. The arts, music in particular, changed my life and countless people's lives. It is such a valuable, important thing in our society, intrinsically, by itself, for its own value, and that I did not sense tonight.
Okay, Stephen?
Yes, sir. Stephen Muhammad, I'm an independent candidate. Grew up in Akron all my life, went away to go to school, came back. Here tonight, this is the third forum that I've been a part of, though not directly. And certainly, let's take this out. And certainly one of the things that I saw tonight was a little bit of dancing, but not really specifically going at the issues, especially as the arts and culture assessment was dictating some of the things that we wanted to focus on. Based upon the arts and culture assessment, 63% of people who were polled, or just Akronites in general, feel that the arts are vital. I agree with that. That means that 37% do not, or just are disconnected. And the other thing that was brought out that was a major issue is how the African American community is disengaged. And when you look at what arts do in terms of growth and development and stimulating creativity and how that's vitally important to the growth and development of the human being in general, communities and specifics, then you also can see how when you're in survival mode or the poor and disenfranchised somehow get boxed out of that. I think we can reintegrate that by changing the culture. Our Family First initiative focuses specifically on that, and one of the things that I see that's critically a way we can engage that is by using our community centers, churches, and just other resources that are already there, engaging them with specific ways to bring in art, not just as arts and culture, but more on the therapeutic aspect. Right now, what's going on in the inner cities, there's a lot of things that are causing anxiety, depression, and things like that that tie into mental illness. If you want to shake loose money for arts and culture, and you approach it now from a therapeutic perspective, then you access now a brand new element financially that wouldn't exist before. And I think that was something that was overlooked tonight that should have been highlighted.
Thank you, Stephen. That was a great answer. Yoly, what do you think about the candidates and how they address some of the arts issues we brought up tonight?
Well, I think the candidates did rather well. If this had been any other forum, if this had been any of the debates, they talked about the arts, they laughed about the arts, they tried to make, quaint little stories about the arts, but they really did not touch the arts. When they were asked to name their favorite band, not a single one of them mentioned Shivering Timbers or Acid Cats or The Help in a Hand or the Black Keys. At the very least, when you have an opportunity to tell people that you have a favorite band, even if it is not your top 100, come on, it's Akron. Akron is iconic for music. Akron is iconic for artistic talent. And they, I've been watching them, I've been following them, I've been asking them questions, hounding them actually, and it always hits me that they don't really understand that the arts, it's not just a passion for Akronites, it's a way of life. It's like eating and breathing and creating. Whether you're painting, whether you're singing, whether you're songwriting, whether you're on the theater stage, or you're simply directing. And by the way, directing a play, even if it's a one-person play, it is a monumental task. And for them to make fun of it, to laugh about it, to pass it on to their wives, I was disappointed.
Well, I think it's a sign of a larger cultural issue here where we don't look at arts as an industry like we look at, machining or we look at the automotive industry. So I think we need to I think some of the problem is we need to rethink how we look at arts and culture as an economic driver, as a catalyst for development. So, and having discussions like these can help achieve that, and you're right, there are hundreds of great local bands that we should all be seeing more. So, and Yoly's at like 5 concerts a week, so she puts her money where her mouth is. So Vanessa, what about you? What's your thoughts?
I believe that the candidates did a good job. I think because this event was so concentrated, there was a lot of information that wasn't spoken about. But I'm curious just to see how much communication and support the arts and cultural, just that atmosphere will actually get supported. I've noticed just contributing to the Akronist that there are a lot of communities that aren't involved as much as we would probably like, and yet those are the very communities that people would want to reach. So for me, there's this discrepancy that wasn't really talked about as much that I would have liked to have heard about. And also, arts and culture, I think everyone in this room, we kind of understand that it brings something, as a person, spiritually, physically, emotionally, and I didn't really get that kind of energy from some of the candidates, that it really affected them on a personal level. Just that I attend a school, I go to Lock 3, but it's more than that. So I think for me, it's just those things I wish I would have heard more about and not just so cookie cutter in their responses. So.
Okay. And Mr. Melver, what are some of your thoughts? And tell us a little bit about yourself as well, as the other candidates did.
Thank you. My name is Bill Melver, and I've been here in Akron for about 15 years. And if you want to talk about the arts, I just want you to follow a candidate that has really walked the talk, okay? Now, what I heard this evening were 3 politicians that told you the kind of answers you would like to hear, and they support the arts. You know what? I would applaud a candidate with an integrity that says, you know what? This city's got lots of bigger issues to address. We're broke, and we want to, and the art community, I think, is already doing a great job all on its own, and it doesn't without the intervention of the city. They do the open concerts, and those are great things. But this came together because the art community made it happen. Now, let's go back to talking, walking the talk. I founded this magazine back in 2002, all right? I went out and raised $100,000 so we could have an Akron magazine of its own, because we are better than Cleveland. And I reached out to the community, and I was able to raise that kind of money. So when we talk about, how are we going to fund this? If you have the right message that you can reach out to the community, this is a very generous community, and they're very philanthropic, and you give that right message, the money is going to be there. I don't know if you heard about the preacher who started the stewardship campaign one year and says, I have some good news and I have some bad news. The good news is I found the money. The bad news, it's in your wallet. But that is true. I don't know if you remember, after 9/11, this community decided to buy a fire engine for New York City. They set a target, $350,000. You know how much money we raised? $1.4 million. We bought 3 fire engines. That is this community, okay? And I don't think the 3 candidates really understand that kind of a culture that we have here. I do, because I've done this, okay? I want to read you a letter, the email I just got from Christopher Wilkins. Chris Wilkins is the music director for the Akron Symphony. He writes, Dear Bill, I just read about your decision to run for mayor of the city of Akron with great interest. I have experienced firsthand your great love of this city and your deep commitment to community service. Your support for the Akron Symphony, the Akron Youth Symphony, and Aquinas International are well known to nearly everyone in my circle. I am thrilled to have your voice in the mayoral race because you have always served the arts community and the nonprofit with distinction. All right? So I don't need to talk too much about myself. I've got enough people out there that knows what I've accomplished, know how important art is in my life because I've walked that talk. So as far as, I think one of the questions was, what is your vision of the art? And my vision would be that Akron is the model of what a city's art community should look like, because we have world-class symphony, you went to the Porch Rocker, you saw all the local talents, it's all right here, and we can bring it all together through these kinds of events and become the model for Ohio and the model for this whole country as to what a community-driven arts community should look like.
Thanks, Bill. So Mr. Muhammad, I wanted to give you a chance to talk to us about how you would incorporate arts into your platform were you to win the mayor's seat.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, it's already there. Our Family First initiative deals specifically with rebuilding and recreating the culture on the ground all the way up. I don't think that the mayor has anything that's more important than going into the family structure if it's broken, and in many respects it is. We talked about that 37% that don't even recognize or see art as valuable, as an important aspect of life. In the school systems, in fact, when I was coming along, ironically, in 9th grade, I was voted most artistic in my classroom. This is at Simon Perkins Junior High School, it was junior high then, of course. And in 10th grade, I never pursued art anymore. I started playing basketball, started getting into sports, didn't see art as fun anymore. The support system, had it been there then, who knows what could have come out of that. If I had known the therapeutic benefits of art then, who knows what may have come out of that. Just this last year, I was really able to see firsthand, working with those who have severe and persistent mental illness. I don't know if Lacey is still here, but she's one of the therapists that we work with. Her work is incredible. This is why I say if you approach this as you're talking about public safety and public health, When you add that element to it, since you already have funding there for that, now you open up a way to not have to install a committee to do that. It's already there. You just need the personnel to get it going. But the community centers, the churches, they all now need more utility. The churches especially are emptying out because the young folks are saying, I don't see a place that's here for me. But if they had that expression just as an option, you might find that those singers, some of those actors and actresses, those who use the paintbrush, those who use the pen, the chalk, those who use the stencils, these are people who don't even know what they have. We've also seen evidence where people who have depression, people who have a difficult time expressing themselves, when they have a different form of expression, then now you can tap into that person. And you find out there's a real individual hiding in there just waiting to come out. Just with that slight turn of changing the culture a little bit from what is popular now, which is what we saw the last 2 hours, to something new. And the folks that we're talking to on the street are saying the same thing. We want something new. We want something new. It's time for something new. And I would have hoped that Summit Art Space and the art community would have seen that first. And we should have been a part of the discussion right along with those candidates who have all this money behind them, several $100,000, me and Sage were mentioning earlier, that can be used to do something positive, not just get ads and push your campaign.
Sure.
Let's go back to the grassroots.
I agree, and we have a great network of healing arts organizations here in Akron. We have the Emily Welty Expressive Therapy Center at Akron Children's Hospital. I know the Media Center and the Akronists have been involved in some creative arts as a healing tool programs with mental illness, and now we're working with some folks with PTSD and trauma. So Sage, same question for these guys. How would you incorporate arts into your platform were you to become mayor?
So I have now sat through, I think, 5 hours of mayoral debates. It's being an independent, I feel like it's part of my job to study the competition. And the one question I have asked myself all 5 hours is, why do these guys want to be mayor? Why? And the only reason I can ever come up with is they want the power or they want the money, and maybe both. But I'll tell you what, I spent 5 minutes with these two other independents today, and I know 100% why they want to run for mayor, and it's because they want to make a difference. And that's what I want to do. I want to make a difference. That has never been on my radar for those other candidates. They want to make a difference. They look like micromanagers to me. They're not coming up with innovative solutions to these problems in our city. And they need new ideas. So something that's going on right now is I have a building, and there are artists in this room right now that are utilizing an unused space in my building for arts, for free. They're not paying anything. They're just helping turn that into an interesting space. And there are countless buildings in this city that are unused. There's no reason why we could not take those buildings and turn them into community centers, art centers, creative centers. We can make a difference. And that is not coming up. I want to change Main Street. We need to talk to the Civic. We need to talk to E.J. Thomas. Yeah, those are cool. I'm down. I am down. E.J. Thomas changed my life. I get it. But that is not the future. We need pop-up businesses. We need to let the youth that are in this room right now free and to create and be the future of our city.
Thanks, Sage. Yoly, this question is for you. The candidates today talked about neighborhood development and how that can help the arts experience. And I know there are a few folks in here who I recognize who are involved in neighborhood level arts organizations. And I believe, and as part of the Akronist, we believe that's really crucial. So, Yoly, how do you see neighborhood development playing into the arts experience and helping our arts and culture throughout this city?
Well, one of the problems that I have found, especially in my neighborhood, if we ever want to do anything and we want to attract more than 50 persons, and in my neighborhood we have over 400 houses, it would cost us at least $300 to get the permit. We would have to have one porta potty per 50 persons. We would have to hire security, and to hire a uniformed police officer is about $47 an hour. We wanted to put on movies in the park. Right off the bat, not counting copyright fee, we were talking about $1,000 for one movie, for one neighborhood of 400 persons. There is a lot of creativity, a lot of ideas. There is a wealth of things that neighborhoods want to do, that citizens want to do, that red tape keeps them from doing. And just getting rid of some of those hurdles would be like a breath of fresh air.
Sure. And I will let you guys know there are neighborhood partnership grants available for neighborhood projects such as this. It's an annual program that's actually put on by the Akron Community Foundation and the City of Akron. And I know some of you feel like your voices aren't heard, but it's important to keep communicating with our leaders, with our council members, with your ward representatives, some of these concerns and needs, because the city can help with these partnerships, but I think we have to be vocal about this. Vanessa, I have a question for you. The arts survey, one of the things that struck me in this arts and cultural survey is how marginalized some of our minority artists in town feel, aside from the mainstream arts and culture scene. I see it firsthand, and I don't know if you can maybe come up with, or if you have any ideas of ways that you would solve this if you had a chance to bridge that gap. So
That's a huge task.
answer.
Right. That's a big task. But one of the things that I noticed, and like I said before, being a contributor, going into those spaces where the communication isn't put out there, I think that what could really, really help is that people are on the streets more, going out to those communities, taking that risk, talking to them about why these things are actually important, because a lot of us, it's easy to stay home and be safe and say, hey, eventually they'll hear about it, or if they're interested, they'll come to us. So I think that population, minority in any way you want to look at it, whether, it's of race, of, a certain demographic, that those people that are here go to those spaces and say, I'm willing to be uncomfortable, and I'm willing to go and to communicate these things that are important, such as arts, education, entrepreneurship, culture, and understanding why those things are important. Because when you go into those spaces, when I've been there, it's easy to say, hey, go look at this artist, see what they do, go and hear this band and hear what they have to say. But until those people understand why those things are important to their lives and how it influences their lives, they're not going to come from their own spaces, be uncomfortable to be in a space that they think is going to work for them. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's a matter of going out in those places and really seeing those people, really communicating and keeping that communication constant, and not just doing it because it's a special program, but actually going to those spaces and communicating and keeping that consistent.
Sure, it's a matter of exposure. I know as a young person, if I wasn't exposed to certain arts activities, I wouldn't be the person I am today.
Yeah.
And I know I'm plugging all these groups in town, but there's Children's Concert Society. They do free concerts for schools throughout Akron Public Schools, and they do a fantastic job. And they probably have opened a lot of young eyes to orchestra, to jazz band, to playing the oboe, or performing arts of any sort. So we do have that in town, but I do think it's a good point. It's exposure, it's education. So we have time for one brief remark from everybody, and we're gonna start with Bill. Well, actually, I went through everybody twice, so this will be the third time. We'll start with Bill. And any closing thoughts? Keep them brief, but any closing thoughts you have?
Got one time. I'm sorry.
You only got one time?
I'm going to stand up for my man Bill.
Okay, I'm sorry about that.
Right? Isn't that
Okay, I have a question for you, Bill. How can we better keep arts in schools? That was one of the questions and one of the things I wanted to discuss here with the panel. So after Bill will be closing thoughts. Thanks, Sage.
Well, I think there was a pretty good answer. I think it was from Mr. Siplin. And by the way, Mr. Siplin, I really honor you for sticking around, because I think listening to us, you're going to learn a lot more The other two candidates are, you know, nowhere to be seen, so it's unfortunate. I think they could have learned a lot by hanging around and listening to us. And I think it was you who brought up the fact that we have an excellent example at Miller South, and we have opportunity to teach children in a very unique environment, in a very focused way to teach, and we should take that model and replicate it in other parts of the city. You know, the education, the whole entire education thing is a real bag of worms, and I think that we need some fresh look in how to restructure the way we educate our children so that they're prepared to go into the world, to be a productive citizens of the community. And you know, it's going to take a lot of work between the public schools, the charter schools, the private schools. I heard collaboration mentioned a lot. I heard up in Cleveland that they have both reached out to charter school and public school to share best practices. I think we need to be very creative in looking at those kinds of options, and at the core of that is not all just, you know, book learning. Arts plays a very important part because that stimulates the learning process. The other subject matters, they're pretty much about book learning, but what you need is that quiet moment where you enjoy the arts aspect, the other half of your brain that stimulates that learning process. So there's a, you know, it's not a very tangible thing, but it's so critically important, and we need to continue to support that through funding, through volunteerism, through all the creative ways that we can promote it, and so every child gets that full benefit of the arts education.
Thanks, Bill. And before we wrap up, I wanted to thank Arts Now and Summit Art Space for hosting this whole event, and the three candidates earlier. I thought they did a great job. I've seen a lot of the forums, and this one I thought that was the most real talk that I've seen. They told some personal stories, they told some anecdotes, and I think there was a lot of healthy discussion today. There were some questions still that remain, as there always will be. But thanks everyone for sticking around, and I'd like to give everyone on this panel one last a brief comment before we wrap up, and starting with Sage, and we'll just go down the line. Anything you want to say that we didn't talk about? Freestyle.
All right. The artists in this community are our future. You truly are our Obi-Wan Kenobi. You are our only hope. We need you. You are the secret to our success to be a city of the 21st century. And you have been minimized by the authority and the complex that is in this city, and you cannot allow them to keep you stifled. Stand up, let your voice be heard, and you will be the future of this city, and you will make this the greatest city in the Midwest.
Okay, I want to thank Summit Art Space and also the candidates who came out earlier and shared, because it is tough campaigning. I do have to say that. And if you get caught in the mode and you want to break out of that, you know you're going to take a risk in doing so. You may not be popular, but what we're doing is on the ground. We took that from the 2007 campaign with Barack Obama when he was talking about change you could believe in. Then he got hamstrung, and we didn't see that change. My personal philosophy is simple. Government should help the poor, the disenfranchised. Government should help those who can't do for self. Those other facets of a community can function on a higher level. We want to bring them to the table also, but we don't want to cater to them. They do for themselves. Let's work on serving those aspects that need the most help. And then you have a balanced community where you can be safe. Then you can invite business to come here from anywhere in the world. The school system improves. Every aspect grows when we take care of those loose ends. And I don't see that happening. I didn't hear that as a part of the overall conversation. So that's the biggest reason why I joined the mayoral race. We're talking about family first, going on the ground, street by street, brick by brick. And we believe that life imitates art. I'm not sure if it's the other way around sometimes, but when you add the art element and you look at the creative genius that the human being is, when people are turned back on again, every need we have in this community will be met. I don't think we have to go anywhere else to do that. It's already here, but you're only hearing from a small portion of the population. So let's fix that. And I just believe that that's the best way to go. My name is Stephen Muhammad. We hope to see you in November, possibly as your next mayor.
Any closing thoughts, Yoly?
Oh, my. You know, the Akron arts and culture community is vast, okay? It's not asking for a handout. It's not asking for scraps. It's asking for respect. It's asking for acknowledgement. It's asking for real support, not just, oh yeah, we're for the arts. Oh yeah, we're for the theater. We're for the Akron music scene. All our artists want: recognition, respect, support. That's all.
Thank you. Sometimes just a little acknowledgement does go a long way, and I think a lot of our artists are just looking for that, looking for that recognition from our leaders, from neighborhood leaders, from ordinary citizens.
I think I definitely agree with what Yoly said. That support is what seems to be lacking. I just noticed that within the community. But also, I was just sitting here thinking and being in this room, encouraging entrepreneurship, individuality, things like that, I think is something that we should be focused on as a community. I already see a lot of that stuff actually happening with sustainability, partnering with a lot of different organizations with the Akronist, and just seeing that people, the community, they are wanting to be able to move forward. And they're not waiting to move forward. They are doing those things right now. But unfortunately, there are certain constructs, like how you have to pay for, policemen or pay for all these zoning issues. Those are the issues. Those are the boundaries that we don't want anymore. And I see that a lot within the community. And for me, I would want someone who represents our community to say, hey, you know what? I believe in the entrepreneur. I believe in their movement, and whoever it is, groups or individuals. And to say, I believe in them to be able, I will believe in them so much so that I will work and try to work with those people to make it so that it's easy to be in certain zoning areas, to make it so it's easy to have a movie in your community, because that brings about so many different things. It brings about integrity, having a community that stays together and molds itself, because that saying, a village, what's the saying of a village? Takes a village to raise a community. That has been lacking. So I think that with the entrepreneurship that's going on already and how people are already moving forward, that we need that backing, because we don't have that big platform. But the candidates here and the ones that were before a few hours ago, they have those platforms to be able to help entrepreneurs everywhere to move those things forward.
Thank you. That was a good answer. And Bill, you have the final word, so
Wow.
use it wisely, my friend.
What an honor to have the final say so. First, let me just start by saying that the motto of my campaign is, let's do the right thing for the right reason for Akron. So with that as my opening, I totally endorse everything that Sage said. I think that, we have exactly that. And also, Stephen, you hit the note right on the head when you spoke about the disenfranchised and the voices that aren't heard. We need to make sure that we can go out and their voices are heard. But On June 19th, just a couple months ago, there was a gentleman from London. His name was Charles Landry. He came here. He took a tour of Akron. He was sponsored by the Knight Foundation, and there was a talk. He gave a talk at the Civic, and I attended, and there were about 60 other folks, very, community-minded folks that gathered to listen to his talk. And his message was cities of ambition, and he talked about 27 different cities in Europe that have made a complete turnaround. Some of these cities were on the brink of bankruptcy, and others had been decimated by folks just leaving, but they made this complete turnaround because the citizens of those cities made that happen. And he took the tour around Akron, and his conclusion was Akron has every element to be one of those great cities that made that turnaround. And just like I said earlier, the money's in your pocket. We need to get that out. And I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about passion, and I'm talking about volunteering, and I'm talking about enthusiasm and creativity and entrepreneurship. That is all right here. We have it. We raised $1.4 million to buy 3 fire engines. We could easily raise $1.4 million just for Akron to work on the biggest problem we have, whether it's the potholes or the schools. We have that in our city limits. And so my job, if I should become your mayor, is to be your biggest cheerleader and provide that kind of leadership and examples so that we can all rise up and, as the other gentlemen have said, make this the greatest city in the world. We have it. We can do it. All right? We just need you to step up and support one of us. Now, in closing, I want to also say we're all still seeking signatures for our petition. So if you haven't signed our petitions, please hang around and honor us with your signature on our petition so we can get on the ballot. Thank you.
And when is the deadline? The end of this week?
The official deadline is the day before the primary, which is September 7th. However, September 7th is a Labor Day, which is a holiday, so it has to be the Friday before, which is September 4th.
This Friday.
Yeah. Well, the board election is closed.
Are they trying to get us out of the election?
Yeah, they are. They are. But we got some good.
Telling me September 7th for months.
Well, I know, but they didn't tell you that it's a holiday and the office will be closed.
They're open this week from 8 to 7.
Yep.
They open Saturday. And they open Sunday.
Oh,
On Labor Day too, but they're not letting people know.
Oh, I didn't.
Drop them on Friday.
Well.
Just drop them on Friday.
Anyway, the
Okay.
line is that, if you haven't signed, please sign our petitions, okay? We each need 373 signatures to become, on the ballot. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Bill, and thanks to everybody on our panel today, and thank you for the candidates who spoke earlier. This is Chris Miller from Akronist.com, and we hope to see you again at a similar event. Have a great night.